This is National Weed Day. Weed as in marijuana. It's also known as Stoner's Day or 420. Just write all that down. But whatever you choose to call it, it is a big day for people who smoke marijuana around the world. And it's taken on a special significance this year, with California voters set to decide in November whether to become the first state to legalize pot. There's also a growing push to legalize marijuana in other places. So what is the real significance of April 20th? We're joined now by Ryan Grim, senior congressional correspondent for the Huffington Post. He's also the author of This Is Your Country on Drugs, The Secret History of Getting High in America. Ryan, you are so diverse. It is incredible. It's amazing. But let me ask you, I didn't know it was National Weed Day. I hate to admit it because I'm going to get beat up on Twitter because everyone else seems to know that it was National Weed Day. But there's a new poll out there that says still, I believe it's 55% of Americans don't think it's a good idea to legalize marijuana.
Yeah, Tamron, I can't believe you let that out of the bag. You know, it's been 420. You know, for the last decade and a half, it's been a day that people have started to really celebrate. I have a story up on Huffington Post today that we're actually reprinting from a year ago that tries to explain the origins of it. Now, it's impossible to know exactly how it started because there could always be some stoner who says, "Hey, man, I used the term before these guys." But we did track it down to this group of high school students in San Rafael, California in 1971. I interviewed a whole bunch of them, and their story matches up. They have evidence that backs up their claim, and it's this, that a buddy of theirs had to abandon a patch of excellent bud somewhere in the Point Reyes forest. So they were
like a Cheech and Chong conversation.
Exactly.
Excellent bud, I guess, and I'll translate, that means really good marijuana?
Or kind, or whatever the Californians like to call it.
Okay.
So they were going to go tramp through these woods looking for this, and so they said, well, we'll meet after school at the Louis Pasteur statue at 420. And so then when they would see each other in the hallway, they'd say, "Hey, 420 Louis, dude," and that was code for, we're going to go get high and we're going to go look for this pot. And so eventually they dropped the Louis and they just kept using 420. The way that it kind of drifted, so to speak, into the rest of the culture is that after the counterculture kind of collapsed in San Francisco in the late 60s, everybody moved up to Marin County. And so you had the Grateful Dead living right where these 5 high school kids were. One of their fathers was doing real estate for the Dead. One of their brothers was managing like a side band for them. So they were always hanging out and smoking pot around the Dead. I actually interviewed the Dead about this, and they said, yeah, I remember those guys.
Wow.
I don't remember exactly when we started using 420. Shock there. But it spread over the next 30, 40 years, and here we are today that all across the country, people are going to meet at around 420. They're going to spark up, and then they're going to go home.
And is it appropriate to say to someone, if I saw someone on the street today, happy 420 day? Is that appropriate? Does that say something about me if I greet someone that way?
It would be a code. So happy 420, Tamron.
Okay, but let me ask you, what are the chances that we will see the legalization of marijuana in California?
It's the toughest time for them to run this because in the midterms you have mostly older voters coming out, and older voters are overwhelmingly opposed to marijuana legalization. And at the same time, you're going to have the prison guards union spending millions of dollars to try to beat this back. And if you can think of a more cynical political position to take, then there should be more people in prison so that we can work overtime to guard them, then I'd like to know what it is. But in 2008, the prison guards were able to beat a treatment over incarceration initiative by spending millions of dollars on it. So the potheads out there are going to be outmatched. But California is in such dire fiscal straits that maybe people will say, look, we've spent enough on this folly. It's time to move forward. Well,
that's what many people say. And in fact, that poll I was mentioning, 65% say legalizing pot would, in their thoughts, have no effect or reduce crime. And as I pointed out, 55% still say in this poll that they're not for the legalization. Interesting conversation, Ryan. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm going to read that book so I can get up to date on what's happening. Thank you very much. I will.